we have been talking about crossings. And as you see on the cover of your bulletin for tonight, we've talked and we've heard about crossing from depression to joy. We've talked about crossing from denial to deliverance, from divorce to unity, from disability to productivity. A variety of people have shared. Tonight we have the joy of having Kristen Bjorn with us. And Kristen is a chaplain with Treasure Coast Hospice. I know Kristen served me when my dad was dying. One day she came into the room after I'd had a long chat with my dad and was a real blessing to me. And then again we met again just a few weeks ago, literally, when my mom was in hospice as well, too. So I'd like to invite Kristen to come on up. And want to welcome you, Kristen. Thanks for being with us tonight. God bless you. And Kristen, share with us, how is it that you are here to share about crossing over from death to life? And I'm just going to let you talk, okay?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and it's a pleasure and an honor to come and be here, and so I thank you, Pastor David. Let me just begin a little by sharing my journey to hospice. I started out as a pastor in a local Methodist church up in Maine, and then I made my way to Florida and served again as a pastor in a little United Methodist church in Palm City. And it was a half-time church, and as I was going through the newspaper one day, I discovered Treasure Coast Hospice needed a chaplain. So I decided to look into that because I thought hospice was probably a pretty special ministry, I thought. And I thought I wanted to hear more about it and look into that. And to be honest, at that time, I did not have much experience with death and dying. I had done a little bit of work up in the Orlando hospital and worked with folks who were going through different traumas in their life, people who had heart attacks and come into the emergency room, and I was there for them and their family at that time. But hospice was going to be a little bit different, and I have been with them now for seven and a half years, and I continue to learn as I have the wonderful opportunity to be with the patients and to be with the family members during those very hard and difficult times for some people. We have the opportunity to minister to people who've been sick for a while. So by the time they get to us, they have reached a place of acceptance as far as death and dying. In many respects, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're ready. They're ready to pass on from this world to the next. But then there are others who we come across who, in the case of a dear someone that I met last week, he was diagnosed with cancer maybe 3 weeks ago. He overlooked his symptoms. He didn't want to go to the doctor. But when he finally found out that he had cancer, there was no chance for any type of treatment. So he came to the St. Lucie Hospice House, and of course we were there. We welcomed him in and went on a journey with him and his girlfriend and helped them during this hard time. Because as you know, when someone you love is dying, it can be very, very, very hard, and especially if you've never been around it before. And in our culture, we're not around it a lot. If some of us are, but we're not always around it. It's not something we talk about very often. But at hospice, it is something we do talk about. And if families and patients are ready to share, then talk about those tough discussions, it is so rewarding and so special. I remember a lady, I want to share this wonderful story from a lady who, she had come to the hospice house. She'd been sick for a while, and I came in to greet her and to talk with her, and after a while I asked her if she was afraid to die. And she said, of course I'm afraid to die, she said to me. But she said, you know, though, I don't think I'm going to be alone. We came into this world with people around us and people with us, I don't think I'm going to die alone. I think there will be people there for me to be with me during this passing. And I thought, oh my goodness, that was beautiful. I loved that, because very often you hear, when we die, we do it alone. I don't think that's true anymore. I believe that there are people here who love us and support us on our way and on as they walk us to the doors of heaven. But I think there are others greeting us on the other side. We're saying goodbye here, but saying hello on the other side. And I found that to be very comforting, because, I mean, that it is frightening to think of the day when we must leave this world and move on to the next. Some of the experiences I have with our patients when they come to us is very often they want to tie up loose ends. They want to experience reconciliation with family members. They want to find a place of forgiveness in their heart for folks who either have died before or who they have not yet forgiven in the past. And very often they do some of that tough work of finding a place of forgiveness or asking for forgiveness. And others just want to talk about their life, the high points and the low points of their life, and sort of relive that and go over it. And I have the wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be there to listen and to hear their story. And I can't even begin to tell you how honored I am, and it is truly holy ground. And to see others who are able to show up as family members and friends and to support their loved ones as they leave this earth is it's truly an honor and a privilege for me, but also for others who've been on this journey. I'm sure some of you have been on this journey as well. What's nice about hospice, though, is the folks I work with are so special in that I believe it's a calling. They're called to come and work for hospice, and they have what's called the hospice heart. And they know how to help people during this time, whether it's family members or friends or loved ones or the patient, just getting the patient comfortable, just getting them out of pain, helping them with their shortness of breath, whatever the case may be. We have social workers and doctors and nurses and pastors, and then we have bereavement counselors. So after their loved one has passed, we have those who are there to support those who are still living. Because as you know, grief is a process and it takes time. It takes time to heal. And I remember sitting down with a bereavement counselor one time, and because I hadn't been on that end. I hadn't been on the end where someone had died and now she was working or he was working with those who were grieving. And she said to me, "I don't know how you do it." And I said, "I don't know how you do it." And she said, "Well, you know what we get to work with, what I get to see," she said, "I get to see people heal from their grief. I get to see them heal." And I thought, wow. And together with the bereavement counselors and support groups that we have, she and many of the other bereavement counselors get to see people heal from their grief. And I find that such a wonderful opportunity to be a part of an organization who does deal with grief. And we help people from all over the community as well, even with the grief, those who've lost children, those who've been involved with horrible tragedies, car accidents, and someone's died. Folks who've had babies who've died, and those loved ones, those bereaved can call in and get help from our counselors and find healing. What I've noticed as I worked with families and patients, those that tend to have a belief system tend to have a little bit easier time. I'm not saying the pain isn't there, the pain is still there. But those that seem to, whether it's Christian, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, some type of Native American, some type of belief system, they have an easier time making the transition, whether it's someone passing from this world to the next, or those who are healing from the loss of a loved one. That is one thing we've also found in our work. Now, I don't know if you have any.
Kristen, I know one of the things that this book, there's a book that Hospice hands out called The Journey, The Journey. Would you tell a little bit about that? It's a great resource. I know I've got a copy from just my recent exposure to Hospice personally, and Kristen asked me earlier today how many people are going to be here, and I told her, and these are not easily printed out and everything, so she didn't bring one for everybody, but if you want one, I'm sure you can get one, and because it was really helpful, I know, for me, particularly with my dad's passing, but again with my mom's as well too. Just share a little bit about that, would you?
Okay. This is a book, again, it's called The Journey, as Pastor David mentioned, and it gives folks an idea of what the dying process, what some of us can expect if we have a loved one who is about to enter the dying process. I'll use my father as an example. As a matter of fact, my father just died in January. He came down from Connecticut to live with me, or to live next door to me. He had Parkinson's. And some of you may know the Parkinson's disease is just a painful, it's a long process. And by the time my dad got to me, he was no longer walking, and his symptoms had gotten very bad. But because of my experience with hospice, and because of a book such as called The Journey, I was able to watch some of that. I was able to observe some of that process and see a little bit about what was going on, not to mention my experience with hospice. But what this book will share with you is some of the signs that someone you know and love who could possibly be entering that dying process. It talks about everything from for example, the physical signs, the lower blood pressure, possibly a temperature that they're having, the less responsiveness that the patient is sleeping more. Sometimes it's as simple as if they're lying in bed and that loved one starts to talk about going on a journey or needing to go somewhere or packing their bags, I need to go somewhere, or even talking about seeing a loved one. In the case of my father, I remember in the past, the 2 months prior, he would often talk about his mother or his father or his brother who had passed away. The strangest thing I had, my father, one of the last days that my conversation my dad and I had was sort of interesting. I was getting ready, it was right after Christmas, so it must have been New Year's Day. I was getting ready to drop my uncle off at the airport because my uncle had been in town, and my dad had taken a definite decline, but we weren't sure which way he was going. He looked at possibly that he could be recovering from his latest infection. But that morning I came in, I said, Dad, I'm going to take Uncle Doug to the airport, and I'll see you around lunchtime. And he said, in my lifetime? I said, at lunchtime, Dad. Well, I went away, and about 11:30, I got a call from the nurse, and she said, Kristen, where are you? I said, I'm on my way back from the airport. And she said, well, you'd better hurry up because your dad is not doing well. And I'm like, you're kidding. I left him 2 hours ago, and I thought he was doing okay. But it was interesting. Those are the little comments my dad started making at the end. You know, in my lifetime, Kristen, I'll see, good night, I love you. If I die tonight, no, I love you. So these were things that were happening just a couple months prior to his leaving this world. The other thing I noticed is he began to withdraw from friends. And even from family members. He didn't want to take phone calls anymore. With Parkinson's, though, he had lost so much of what he enjoyed, but even what little he did enjoy towards the end, he didn't want to eat anymore. So he said no thank you to the food. And in my experience, I've learned that we don't force the food on people. We walk with them in their journey. You know, it was my dad's journey, and all I could do was be there with him and for him. But I cannot tell you, it was still not easy. Even my time at hospice and being with him for 7.5 years, I still was not sure where his journey was going to take me until it came time for him to pass. In the case of my dad, though, he did die at the St. Lucie Hospice House, and I wasn't aware of how much I would appreciate the love and support of my friends. And that really helped me get through it, along with my faith. And knowing, in my case, my dad had said his goodbyes, and he was ready to go, so I knew he was ready to go. But just having the special support from family and friends, texting me, or I don't know, I'm not very good with Facebook, but they'd just send their love and support through Facebook. Just those little words of love and kindness really helped me through this hard time, and still helps me when folks just touch base with me and see how I'm doing. How about?
Yeah. Kristen, another question, and you may or may not know the answer to this, because this wasn't one of the questions I had posed to Kristen, but are there volunteer opportunities at hospice, and if so, how can people get involved? Okay. Yeah.
The volunteers that we have there, I can't even begin to say how helpful and how wonderful the volunteers are. And there are wonderful opportunities to volunteer, from working at the front desk at the St. Lucie Hospice House to helping fold up these journey books that I have, this journey book and many other journey books that we pass out. We also have a Pet Peace of Mind group where we have folks who go out and help people out with their dogs and their cats, because some of our patients and their loved ones it's just taking the dog for a walk can be difficult. Or those who are becoming financially strapped due to their illnesses and whatnot, we may come in and take the dog and bring them to get shots at the local vet. So we have folks working with our patients and families having to do with pets. We also have volunteers that go into our patients' homes and sit with patients while the caregiver can go out for 2 hours and go grocery shopping or get their hair done or their nails done. But that gives our family members just a wonderful break. Sometimes we have volunteers that come to the hospice house, because we do have patients who don't have family in the area, or some who have been homeless or very much estranged from family members who don't have anyone visiting them at all. These volunteers will come and just sit with the patients and maybe read a story to them, or just hold their hand, or just be in the same room with them, sharing words of comfort on occasion. But I know our volunteers are very important to hospice, and that would be wonderful. All you'd have to do is call hospice and ask for the volunteer department, and they'd give you some training, and then introduce you to folks, and we would never send you to a place where you were uncomfortable.
And for those of you who don't know, Hospice House here in St. Lucie County is up off Midway Road, Midway and Dunn. And right now they're 4-laning right in front of it, and it's a bit of a hassle to get in and out. But that's where the counseling center is too. And I'm sure you'd be more than welcome to come up there and tour the facility at any time, and that kind of thing. Well, Kristen, I want to say thank you for sharing with us tonight. Thank you very much, and God bless you in your ministry.
Thank you.
Thank you.